The massive hall of the Galactic Council stretched before Admiral Tejo like a steel canyon. Thousands of seats rose in curved tiers, each one filled with representatives from across the galaxy. The air hummed with translation devices working to convert hundreds of different languages into something everyone could understand. Tejo sat quietly in the human section, his dark uniform simple compared to the elaborate robes and armor worn by other species. Supreme Commander Krekstov, the Vorthic Empire, stood at the center podium, his forearms gesturing wildly as he spoke. His voice boomed through the chamber, filled with contempt that needed no translation. "Look at them!" Krextal's voice dripped with disgust as he pointed toward the human delegation. 50 years they have sat among us, and what have they contributed? Nothing but weakness disguised as diplomacy. The Vorthic commander's red eyes glowed brighter as he continued his speech. When the Zephyrian pirates attacked their merchant vessels last month, what did Earth do? They sent strongly worded letters. When the crystalline hegemony seized their mining rights on Kepler 442, they filed formal complaints. This is not the behavior of a warrior species. This is the behavior of prey. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The snake-like Cephas delegates hissed their approval. The insectoid Montari clicked their mandibles in what passed for laughter among their kind. Even some of the more peaceful species nodded their heads, though they looked uncomfortable doing so. Commander Sojin, sitting beside Tejo, kept her face completely neutral. Her hands rested calmly on her datapad, but Tejo could see the slight tension in her shoulders. She had been Earth's military attached for 3 years now, and every day brought fresh insults about human cowardice. The crystalline hegemonies. Ambassador rose from her seat, her body looking like living diamond as light refracted through her form. When she spoke, her voice rang like wind chimes. "Perhaps it is time to consider reclassifying humanity," she said, her tone almost gentle. "They clearly cannot defend themselves adequately. We should place them under the protectorate status, like we do with the gentle ones of Andrus Prime." More murmurs filled the hall. The protectorate status was meant for species that had achieved space travel but lacked the military strength to defend themselves. Protected species were forbidden from having significant military forces and had to rely on stronger civilizations for defense. Tejo finally stood up. The hall gradually fell silent as all eyes turned toward him. He was not an imposing figure by galactic standards. Humans were smaller than most species represented here, and they lacked the natural weapons that evolution had given others. No claws, no armored skin, no venom, no ability to survive in vacuum. "Honored delegates," Tejo began, his voice calm and measured. "Earth appreciates your concern for our welfare. We have indeed chosen diplomatic solutions when conflicts arise. We believe that civilization advances through cooperation, not conquest." Krextal's laugh was like grinding metal. "Cooperation? You mean surrender. Your colonies are attacked, and you evacuate instead of fighting. Your ships are seized, and you file protests instead of taking them back by force. This is not cooperation. This is submission." The Vorthic commander activated a holographic display showing recent incidents involving human vessels. Ships fleeing from attackers, colonies being evacuated under pressure, diplomatic missions ending in apparent failure. "Look at this pathetic record," Krextal continued. "Not once have humans shown the strength to defend what is theirs. They run, they hide, they beg for protection from stronger species. How can such a weak race sit as equals in this council?" Sojin's datapad chimed softly. She glanced down at it, then leaned slightly toward Tejo. "Message from Earth Command," she whispered. "Continue observation protocols. Do not reveal defensive capabilities." Tejo nodded almost imperceptibly. He had received similar messages every week for the past 5 years. Earth's instructions were always the same: observe, record, learn, but never show their true strength. The Apex Syndicate's representative, a being that looked like a living shadow with glowing eyes, spoke next. The Vorthic commander raises valid concerns. If humanity cannot protect itself, perhaps it should not have voting rights equal to warrior civilizations. This brought louder murmurs of agreement. Several species that had previously remained neutral began nodding their heads. The political tide was turning against humanity, just as it had been for months. Teho remained standing, waiting for the noise to die down. When it did, he spoke again. "We understand your perspectives," he said. "However, Earth's approach to conflict resolution has prevented numerous wars that would have cost millions of lives across multiple species. We prefer to find solutions that benefit everyone rather than simply demonstrating superior firepower." A delegate from the Razor Claws Federation stood up, her 6-foot frame covered in natural armor plating. "But you have never demonstrated any firepower at all. Your ships are barely armed. Your colonies have no significant defenses. You cannot preserve peace if you have no strength to back up your words." She was right, of course, from their perspective. Every human ship they had seen was lightly armed by galactic standards. Human colonies appeared to have only basic defensive systems. When attacked, humans typically evacuated rather than fought back, the hall filled with the sounds of agreement from dozens of species. Some were genuinely concerned about human vulnerability. Others clearly saw an opportunity to reduce human influence in galactic politics. Teho sat back down as the debate continued around him. Species after species stood to give their opinions on humanity's apparent weakness. The general consensus was clear: humans were too passive to be effective. Members of the Galactic Council, during a brief recess, Sojin approached him with another message. "Admiral, this one is different. It's from the President herself." Teho, read the message carefully. It was short, but the implications were enormous. "The situation has developed as predicted. Prepare for Phase 2 implementation. The galaxy will soon understand the difference between patience and weakness." He deleted the message and looked around the Great Hall. Delegates were clustered in groups, discussing the human problem in voices they thought were too quiet to be overheard. The human hearing was better than most species realized, and the translation devices picked up everything. The Vorthek were already making plans. Krextol was speaking with his war council about a demonstration that would show humanity its proper place in the galactic order. They were discussing targets, strategies, and the political benefits of defeating humans in open combat. "New Sol would be perfect," one of the Vorthek officers was saying. "A farming colony with minimal defenses. We could conquer it in hours, and the humans would have no choice but to accept our terms." Sojin had heard it too. She moved closer to Teho and spoke in a voice barely above a whisper. "They're planning to attack New Sol, 2.3 million civilians." Teho nodded. "And they expect us to surrender without fighting." "Will we?" Teho looked at her with an expression that might have been a smile. "Commander, what do you think humans have been doing for the past 50 years while everyone assumed we were weak?" Before Sojin could answer, the session resumed. Krextol took the podium again, his forearms spread wide in a gesture of announcement. "The Vorthek Empire has reached a decision," he declared. "We will provide humanity with a practical lesson in galactic reality. In 1 week, we will conduct military exercises near the human colony of New Sol. This will demonstrate the consequences of refusing to develop adequate defenses." The threat was clear to everyone in the hall. This was not going to be an exercise. This was going to be an attack designed to force human submission. Teho stood once more. "We will convey your intentions to Earth Command," he said simply. Krextal's red eyes glowed with satisfaction. "Good. Perhaps after this lesson, humans will understand their proper place in the galaxy." As the session ended and delegates began filing out of the hall, Sojin stayed close to Teho. "Admiral, are we really going to let them attack New Sol?" Teho activated his personal communicator and sent a brief, coded message to Earth. Then he looked at Sojin with that same almost smile. "Commander, the galaxy is about to learn that there is a very big difference between choosing not to fight and being unable to fight. They have mistaken our patience for weakness. That mistake is about to become very expensive for them." The Great Hall emptied as representatives returned to their ships and embassies. None of them noticed that the human delegation was not discussing evacuation plans or surrender terms. Instead, they were making preparations for something the galaxy had never seen before, humanity showing its true capabilities. The test was coming, and Earth was ready. Captain Dongwu stood on the bridge of the orbital defense station, Guardian's Rest, watching the peaceful blue and green world of New Sol rotate slowly below. The agricultural colony was home to 2.3 million humans, most of them farmers and their families who had come here to grow food for Earth and other human settlements. The planet's surface was covered with vast fields of grain and vegetables, dotted with small towns and processing centers. It was a beautiful, quiet world. It was also about to become a battlefield. "Captain, we're detecting movement at the edge of the system," reported Lieutenant Haijin from her sensor station. 47 ships, Vorthek configuration. They just dropped out of hyperspace. Dongwu nodded calmly. Earth Command had warned them this was coming. The Vorthek Empire wanted to make an example of New Sol to show the galaxy that humans were too weak to defend themselves. What the Vorthak did not know was that this colony, like every human settlement, had been preparing for this day for decades. "Send the evacuation signal to all surface settlements," Dongwu ordered. "All civilians to underground shelters immediately. Then transmit our surrender offer to the Vorthak fleet." His crew looked at him with surprise. They had expected to fight, not surrender, sir, asked Commander Yansu, his second in command. "Are we really going to surrender without a fight?" Dongwu smiled slightly. "We're going to follow our orders exactly as Earth Command gave them to us. Trust me, Commander. Everything is going according to plan." On the planet's surface, Dr. Myung was working in her laboratory when the evacuation alarm began sounding. She was officially listed as a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien plant and animal life. In reality, she was one of Earth's most important weapons specialists, and her laboratory was the control center for New Sol's real defenses. Myung activated her emergency protocols and began typing rapidly on her computer. Across the planet, what appeared to be weather monitoring stations began receiving new instructions. Satellites that the Vorthak had dismissed as simple farming equipment started changing their orbital patterns. "Computer, begin atmospheric modification." "Sequence," Myung said quietly. "Initialize Nanite Deployment Protocol 7. "Atmospheric modification commencing," the computer replied. "Nanite systems are ready for activation on your command." Above the planet, War Commander Gorthan studied the human defense station through his ship's viewscreen. It was a small, simple structure with only basic weapons. The human ships around it were even less impressive, old cargo vessels and a few patrol boats that looked like they could barely fight off pirates. "This will be easier than I thought," Gorthan told his officers. "The humans have nothing that can threaten us. We will destroy their defenses in minutes, then demand their complete surrender." His communication officer looked up from his console. "War Commander, the humans are transmitting a message. They want to discuss surrender terms." Gorthan laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "Already? We have not even fired a shot. Transmit our demands. Unconditional surrender, immediate evacuation of all human military personnel, and acceptance of Vorthak occupation. They have 1 hour to comply." On the defense station, Dongwu received the Vorthak demands with no visible emotion. "Transmit our response," he told his communications officer. "Tell them we need 2 hours to organize the evacuation of our military personnel. Request permission to begin moving our civilians to safety." 2 hours? Gorthan snarled when he received the human message. "They dare to negotiate? Begin the bombardment? Target their defense station first, then their ships. Show them what happens when they waste our time." The Vorthak fleet moved into attack position. Their ships were powerful vessels designed for conquest, armed with energy weapons that could crack planets and shields that could deflect almost any attack. They had conquered dozens of worlds using these same tactics. Gorthan's flagship opened fire first, sending a brilliant beam of concentrated energy toward the human defense station. The beam should have punched through the station's shields and destroyed it completely. Instead, something strange happened. The energy beam began to weaken and scatter as it passed through New Sol's atmosphere. By the time it reached the defense station, it had lost most of its power and barely scratched the station's shields. What happened? Gorthan demanded. Why did our weapons lose power? His science officer checked his instruments frantically. Sir, there appears to be some kind of interference in the planet's atmosphere. Our sensors are showing unusual electromagnetic activity. Solar storm? Asked Gorthan. No, sir, the local star is completely stable. This interference is coming from the planet itself. On the surface, Dr. Mi-young watched her screens as the first Vorthic attack failed. The nanites she had released into the atmosphere were working perfectly. These microscopic machines had been designed specifically to disrupt alien energy weapons while leaving human technology completely unaffected. Phase 1 successful, she reported to Captain Dongwu. Enemy weapons are operating at 30%. Efficiency? Shall the first proceed to Phase 2? Proceed, Dongwu replied. More Vorthak ships opened fire, but their weapons continued to lose power as they passed through the planet's atmosphere. Frustrated, Gorthan ordered his fleet to move closer to the planet. If there is interference in the upper atmosphere, we will attack from closer range, he decided. This was exactly what the humans had hoped he would do. As the Vorthak ships descended toward New Sol, they entered the range of the planet's hidden defense systems. What the aliens had thought were simple weather satellites were actually sophisticated jamming devices that could disrupt ship systems without being detected. The first Vorthak vessel to enter the inner atmosphere suddenly lost communication with the rest of the fleet. Its engines began to malfunction, and its weapon systems went offline. The pilot struggled to regain control as his ship started drifting helplessly. Command ship, we are experiencing total system failure, the pilot reported. On emergency channels, all primary systems are down, requesting immediate assistance. 2 more ships moved to help, but they suffered the same fate. Their systems failed one by one as invisible nanites in the atmosphere interfered with their alien technology. Within minutes, 5 Vorthak vessels were drifting powerlessly above New Sol. Gorthan was furious. What is causing this? Our ships are the most advanced in the galaxy. How can a primitive farming planet disable them? His science officer had no answers. According to all their sensors, New Sol was just a normal agricultural world with a standard atmosphere. There should be nothing there that could affect their ships. War Commander, reported his tactical officer, we are also losing communication with our ships in the inner system. Something is jamming our signals. On the defense station, Commander Yuan Su watched the Vorthak fleet's confusion with satisfaction. Captain, their formation is breaking up. Half their ships are out of communication, and several are showing signs of system failures. Dongwu nodded. Signal Dr. Mi-young to proceed to Phase 3. Let's see how they handle our next surprise. On the planet's surface, Mi-young activated another set of hidden systems. Across New Sol, what appeared to be agricultural processing plants began extending hidden antenna arrays. These were not food processing facilities at all, but powerful transmission stations that had been disguised as civilian infrastructure. The stations began broadcasting on frequencies that interfered with Vorthak navigation systems. Ships that had been maintaining perfect formation suddenly found themselves unable to determine their exact position. Some began drifting away from the fleet, while others nearly collided with each other as their navigation computers gave conflicting information. Gorthan realized that his attack was falling apart, but he could not understand why. His ships were among the most powerful in the galaxy, crewed by experienced warriors who had conquered many worlds. Yet somehow, a peaceful farming colony was defeating them without firing a single shot. Retreat to safe distance, he ordered reluctantly. We need to analyze what is happening here. As the Vorthak fleet pulled back, Dongwu opened a communication channel to their command ship. War Commander Gorthan, he said politely, we notice your ships are experiencing some technical difficulties. New Sol sometimes has unusual atmospheric conditions that can affect sensitive equipment. Perhaps you would like to postpone your training exercise until conditions improve? The suggestion was delivered with perfect diplomatic courtesy, but Gorthan heard the mockery behind it. The humans were pretending that the Vorthic fleet's failure was due to natural phenomena rather than deliberate defense systems. This is not over, Gorthan transmitted back. We will return with better equipment and more ships. We understand, Dongwu replied calmly. New Sol will be here whenever you decide to visit again. As the Vorthic fleet retreated to the edge of the system, Dr. Myung began shutting down the defense systems. The nanits in the atmosphere would break down naturally within a few hours, leaving no trace of their existence. The jamming stations returned to their disguised appearance as agricultural facilities. Commander Yan Su looked at Captain Dongwu with new respect. Sir, how long have these defenses been in place? About 30 years, Dongwu replied. Every human colony has similar systems, all designed to look like normal civilian infrastructure. The Vorthek never realized they were attacking one of the most heavily defended planets in this sector. News of the Vorthek retreat spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The official reports claimed that unusual solar activity and atmospheric conditions had disrupted the Vorthek training exercise, forcing them to withdraw. Most galactic civilizations accepted this explanation. After all, everyone knew that humans were too weak to actually defeat a Vorthek fleet. It must have been bad luck and poor timing that caused the exercise to fail, but a few military analysts noticed something interesting in the reports. The atmospheric interference had affected only Vorthak ships and systems. Human equipment had continued to function normally throughout the entire incident. They began to wonder if perhaps there was more to this story than anyone realized. War Commander Gorthan paced across the command deck of his flagship, his forearms clenched in fury. The failure at New Sol had humiliated him in front of the entire Vorthik Empire. Worse, word of the retreat had spread throughout the galaxy, making the mighty Vorthak military look weak and incompetent. How did a farming colony defeat our fleet? He demanded from his science officers for the 100th time. Our ships are equipped with the most advanced technology in the galaxy. How did primitive humans disable them? Chief Science Officer Thekvar looked up from his analysis screens, his scaled face showing frustration. War Commander, our investigation shows no evidence of human weapons or defense systems. Old data indicates that our ships suffered technical failures due to unusual atmospheric interference. Atmospheric interference that affected only our ships while human equipment worked. Perfectly? Gorthan's voice rose to a roar. That is not coincidence. That is enemy action. Supreme Commander Krextall appeared on the communication screen, his red eyes blazing with anger. Your failure has cost us respect throughout the galaxy, Gorthan. Other species are beginning to question Vorthik's strength. This cannot be allowed? To continue, what are your orders, Supreme Commander? Form an alliance with the Apex Syndicate and the Zephyrian Confederation. If humans think they can embarrass us with tricks, we will show them what happens when three major powers unite. Against them, we will attack Earth itself. Gorthan's eyes widened. Earth? The human homeworld? Yes, we will assemble the largest fleet in galactic history, 10,000 ships from 3 civilizations. Even if the humans have some secret defensive technology, they cannot possibly stand against such overwhelming force. On Luna Base, General Haiyan-Wu studied the intelligence reports coming in from across the galaxy. Earth's spy network had been watching alien military movements for weeks, and the picture was becoming clear. The 3 most aggressive civilizations in the galaxy were joining forces for a massive attack on humanity's homeworld. Intelligence. Officer Yuri entered his command center with the latest update. General, our agents confirm that the alliance is official. The Vorthik Empire, Apex Syndicate, and Zephyrian Confederation have signed a mutual attack treaty. They're calling it the Human Problem Final Solution. Haiyan-Wu shook his head at the aliens' arrogance. How many ships are they assembling? Current count is 9,700, with more joining every day. They expect to reach 10,000 by the time they arrive at Sol System. And they think this will be enough to defeat Earth? Yuri smiled grimly. They think we have no real defenses at all. Their intelligence suggests that Earth's military consists of maybe a few hundred patrol ships and some orbital defense platforms around major colonies. They have no idea what they're really facing, Hyunwoo said quietly. He activated his secure communication system and sent a message to Earth Command. Operation Deep Water is approved. Begin recall of all assets. Across the galaxy, human civilian ships began receiving coded messages. Captain Jin-ho of the exploration vessel Peaceful Dawn was studying mineral deposits in a distant star system when his communication officer brought him an encrypted transmission. Captain, this is a priority alpha message from Earth Command. The officer reported. Jin-ho read the message carefully, then smiled. After 15 years of pretending to be a peaceful researcher, he was finally going to reveal what his ship really was. Signal all crew to battle stations, he ordered. Activate military systems and set course for Seoul. It's time to go home. Throughout the Peaceful Dawn, hidden panels opened to reveal weapon systems that had been concealed for years. The ship's hull reconfigured itself, extending armor plating and sensor arrays that had been folded inside civilian-looking cargo compartments. Within minutes, the harmless-looking research vessel had transformed into a powerful warship. Similar transformations were happening on hundreds of human ships across the galaxy. Trading vessels revealed themselves to be supply ships for a hidden military fleet. Passenger liners converted into troop transports. Mining ships activated weapon systems that had been disguised as industrial equipment, the galaxy's intelligence. Networks had been watching human-civilian traffic for decades, never realizing that nearly every human ship in space was actually part of Earth's secret military. On Earth, President Yoon-hee called an emergency session of the Global Defense Council. Representatives from every nation on the planet gathered. In the secure command center beneath Geneva, their faces serious as they prepared for humanity's greatest test. The alien alliance has made their intentions clear, President Yoon-hee announced. They believe they can conquer Earth through overwhelming force. They think our patience and diplomacy prove that we are weak and defenseless. Defense Minister Chang Min stood up to present the military situation. The enemy fleet will arrive in Seoul System within 2 weeks. Our intelligence suggests they expect to find a few orbital defense stations and maybe some patrol boats. They have no idea that we've been preparing for this moment for 50 years. President Yoon-hee activated a holographic display showing the Seoul System. What appeared to be empty space was suddenly filled with markers indicating hidden military installations. Every asteroid in the belt has been converted into a weapons platform, she explained. Every piece of space debris larger than a basketball contains some form of defensive system. The aliens think they're attacking one undefended planet. In reality, they're flying into the most heavily fortified star system in galactic history. She paused and looked around the room at the faces of Earth's leaders. But before we reveal our true strength, I want everyone to understand what this means. For 50 years, we have maintained the illusion that humanity is weak and peaceful. Once we show our real capabilities, the galaxy will never see us the same way again. Foreign Minister Park Ji-won raised her hand. Madam President, are we certain this is the right course? Perhaps we could negotiate with the alliance, find a peaceful solution. They are coming to conquer us, President Yoon-hee replied firmly. They have publicly announced their intention to enslave humanity and place us under alien rule. There is no negotiation possible with an enemy that views us as property to be claimed. Defense Minister Chang Min activated another display showing the alien fleet's composition. The Vorthek Empire alone is bringing 4,000 ships. The Apex Syndicate has contributed 3,000. The Zephyrian Confederation adds another 3,000. This is not a diplomatic mission. This is an invasion force designed to eliminate human independence forever. President Yoon-hee made her decision. Signal all hidden installations to prepare for combat operations. Activate Protocol 7. The galaxy is about to learn the difference between choosing peace and being incapable of war. Across the Sol system, asteroid mining facilities began revealing their true nature. what appeared to be simple rock processing. Plants were actually manufacturing centers that had been producing weapons and ammunition for decades, or refineries converted into missile production facilities. Communication relays extended hidden sensor arrays that could track enemy ships across the entire system. On Ceres, Commander J-Min supervised the final preparations of Asteroid Defense Command Central. The largest rock in the asteroid belt had been hollowed out over 30 years of secret construction, creating a fortress that could coordinate the defense of the entire system. "All stations report ready for combat," his tactical officer reported. "The enemy has no idea what they're flying into." "Good," J-Min replied. "For 50 years we've let them think we were weak farmers and merchants. Let's see how they handle the truth." The alien alliance fleet was still 3 days away from Sol system when they began detecting unusual activity in the asteroid belt. Long-range sensors showed energy signatures that didn't match normal mining operations. Admiral Vexthal of the Apex Syndicate studied the sensor reports with confusion. "These readings don't make sense. The asteroid belt should contain nothing but mining equipment and cargo haulers." His science officer checked the data again. "Sir, we're detecting thousands of energy sources throughout the belt. The signatures are consistent with military-grade power systems." "That's impossible," Vexthal declared. "Human colonies are barely defended. Their homeworld can't possibly have significant military installations." Supreme Commander Krextal's voice came over the communication system from his flagship. "Whatever the humans have built in their asteroid belt, it cannot threaten our combined fleet. We have 10,000 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. No defensive system can stand against such overwhelming force." War Commander Gorthan, still angry about his failure at New Sol, was eager to redeem himself. "I request permission to lead the advance force, Supreme Commander. Let me be the first to break through their pathetic defenses." "Permission granted," Krextal replied. "Take 500 ships and clear a path through the asteroid belt. The main fleet will follow once you have eliminated their defensive installations." As Gorthan's advance force moved toward the outer edge of the asteroid belt, automated systems throughout the Sol system began final combat preparations. Weapon platforms that had been disguised as mining equipment for decades powered up their main guns. Missile launchers hidden inside asteroid processing facilities loaded their first volleys. President Yoon-hee stood in Earth's command center, watching as the alien fleet approached humanity's real defenses. For 50 years, Earth had projected an image of weakness while secretly building the most sophisticated military force in galactic history. "Madam President," her military aide reported, "all defensive systems are ready. The enemy will reach the outer perimeter in 6 hours." President Yoon-hee nodded. "Send a message to Admiral Krextal. Inform him that Earth regrets the necessity of what must come next, but his alliance has forced our hand." She paused, then added quietly, "And activate the recall beacon for all human ships throughout the galaxy. It's time for our people to come home and see what we've really built here." The alien alliance had no idea that they were about to face not just Earth's defenses, but the entire hidden strength of humanity revealed at last. War Commander Gorthan stared at his tactical display as his advance force of 500 ships approached the outer edge of Sol System's asteroid belt. His sensors showed thousands of small objects floating in space, exactly what he expected to see in a typical asteroid field. Most appeared to be simple mining operations and cargo processing stations. "This is what the humans call their mighty defenses." Gorthan laughed to his officers. "I see nothing but rocks and industrial equipment. Our intelligence was correct. Earth has no real military capabilities." Admiral Vexthal's voice crackled through the communication system from his position with the main fleet. "Gorthan, our long-range sensors are detecting unusual energy readings from some of those installations. Proceed with caution." "Caution?" Gorthan's forearms gestured dismissively. "We are the most powerful military force in galactic history. What could primitive humans possibly do against us?" On Ceres' command, Commander J-Min watched the alien advance force enter the outer perimeter of the asteroid belt. His tactical displays showed the enemy ships moving in a standard attack formation, clearly expecting little resistance. "Enemy vessels have crossed the defense line," reported his sensor operator. "All installations are tracking multiple targets. Weapon systems are powered and ready." Jae-min studied the approaching ships through his viewscreen. They were impressive vessels, each one capable of destroying a small planet. Under normal circumstances, 500 such ships would be an unstoppable force, but these were not normal circumstances. "Signal all stations to maintain camouflage until the enemy is fully committed," Jae-min ordered. "Let them think they're attacking mining equipment until it's too late to retreat." Throughout the asteroid belt, weapons platforms that had been disguised as or processing facilities continued their fake industrial operations. Massive railguns remained hidden behind false mining equipment covers. Missile launchers stayed concealed inside artificial asteroid shells. To enemy sensors, everything appeared to be exactly what it seemed: a collection of civilian industrial sites. Gorthan's flagship approached what appeared to be a large mining station built into an asteroid. His tactical officer scanned the installation and reported normal civilian activity. "Sir, that facility appears to be processing rare metals. Standard industrial operation, no military signatures detected." "Target it anyway," Gorthan ordered. "We will destroy their industrial capacity first, then move on to any actual defenses they might have hidden somewhere." His ship's main weapons charged up, preparing to fire. The energy beam that lanced out toward the mining station should have vaporized it completely. Instead, the mining station suddenly bristled with defensive shields that absorbed the attack effortlessly. The fake industrial equipment fell away like a disguise, revealing a massive weapons platform armed with guns larger than most starships. "What is that?" Gorthan shouted as the hidden fortress returned fire with weapons that made his flagship's guns look like toys. Before his tactical officer could answer, more disguised installations throughout the asteroid belt began revealing their true nature. Mining equipment transformed into missile launchers. Ore processors extended massive gun barrels. Communication relays became sensor arrays that locked onto every ship in the alien fleet. Lieutenant Beoram sat at her tactical station aboard the hidden dreadnought Silent Storm, watching as the enemy fleet realized they had flown into a trap. Her ship had been disguised as a large asteroid for 15 years, slowly drifting through the belt while monitoring alien activities. "Captain, all enemy vessels are within optimal firing range," she reported to her commanding officer. "Shall I begin target acquisition?" Captain Wusung studied the tactical display showing 500 alien ships scattered throughout the asteroid belt, each one now surrounded by hidden human weapons platforms. "Begin surgical strikes," he ordered. "Disable their engines and weapons, but avoid destroying the ships completely. We want survivors to report what they've seen here." The Silent Storm dropped its asteroid camouflage, revealing itself to be one of the largest warships ever built. Its weapon systems came online with devastating precision, targeting the engine systems of nearby enemy vessels. Throughout the belt, similar scenes played out as dozens of hidden human warships revealed themselves. What the aliens had thought was empty space filled with military vessels that had been waiting patiently for decades, Gorthan watched in horror, as his advance force was systematically dismantled by weapons they never saw coming. His ship's guns, which could crack planets, seemed pitiful compared to the massive artillery pieces emerging from disguised asteroids. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, emergency withdrawal to the main fleet," but retreat proved impossible. The human weapons platforms had positioned themselves to create overlapping fields of fire throughout the asteroid belt. Every escape route was covered by multiple gun batteries. More importantly, the human weapons were not trying to destroy the alien ships. Instead, they targeted engines, weapons, and communication systems with surgical precision. Ship after ship found itself drifting helplessly, its crew alive but completely unable to fight or flee. Admiral Vexthal watched from the main fleet as Gorthan's advance force was neutralized in less than 20 minutes. His sensors showed hundreds of alien vessels floating dead in space, disabled by weapons fire of incredible accuracy. "How is this possible?" he demanded from his science officers. Those installations were not there yesterday. Our reconnaissance showed only civilian mining operations. His chief analyst studied the sensor data with growing amazement. Sir, those weapons platforms have been there for decades. They were disguised so perfectly that our sensors read them as simple industrial facilities. The humans have been building military installations in plain sight while we watched. Supreme Commander Krextal's voice boomed across the fleet communication network, filled with rage and disbelief. How many weapons platforms are there? Current count shows over 3,000. Active installations throughout the asteroid belt, the analyst reported. And they appear to be mobile. The asteroids themselves are moving into new defensive positions. This was true. What the aliens had assumed were natural asteroids were actually artificial constructions that could move and reconfigure themselves. As needed, the entire asteroid belt was a single, massive, coordinated defense system. Commander Jamin smiled as he watched the alien main fleet's confusion from his command center on Ceres. Signal all mobile platforms to assume attack formation Omega-7. Let's show them what 50 years of preparation looks like. Throughout the belt, thousands of disguised weapons platforms began moving into coordinated positions. What had appeared to be a random collection of asteroids and mining stations revealed itself to be a precisely organized military formation. The alien alliance fleet found itself facing not the weak defenses they had expected, but the most sophisticated military installation in galactic history. Every piece of space debris larger than a small ship was actually a weapons platform. Every apparent mining station was a fortress. Every communication relay was a sensor array capable of tracking thousands of targets. Simultaneously, Admiral Vexthal realized that his 10,000-ship fleet was outnumbered by human defensive installations. Worse, the human weapons appeared to be far more advanced than anything the Alliance possessed. Sir, his tactical officer reported with a shaking voice, we're detecting energy signatures from deeper in the system. There are more installations around the inner planets. Vexthal's sensors confirmed the report. Jupiter's moons bristled with hidden military bases. Mars appeared to be one giant fortress. Even Earth's moon showed massive defensive installations that had somehow escaped detection for decades. How did they hide all of this? Vexthal whispered. The answer was simple, but devastating. While the galaxy had dismissed humans as weak and peaceful, Earth had been quietly converting their entire star system into an impregnable fortress. Every human colony ship that left Earth had carried not just civilians, but military engineers and construction equipment. Every peaceful mining operation had been building weapons platforms. Every civilian cargo run had been transporting military supplies. For 50 years, humanity had been conducting the largest military construction project in galactic history, and they had done it right under the noses of every major alien civilization. Captain Wusung opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. Attention alien vessels. This is Captain Wusung of the Earth Defense Force. You are surrounded by more than 5,000 weapons platforms, each one capable of destroying your largest ships. You came here expecting to find a defenseless planet. Instead, you have discovered that Earth is the most heavily defended world in the galaxy. He paused, letting that information sink in before continuing. We have disabled your advance force without killing anyone. This demonstrates both our capability and our restraint. You now have two choices: withdraw immediately and never return, or discover just how much firepower we have been hiding for the past 50 years. Supreme Commander Krextal stared at his tactical display, which showed his mighty fleet surrounded by thousands of human weapons that had appeared seemingly from nowhere. His intelligence services had failed completely. His military analysis had been worthless. Everything he thought he knew about human capabilities had been wrong. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon had not been their hidden guns or secret warships. It had been their patience and their willingness to be underestimated while they prepared for the day when diplomacy would no longer be enough. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in its thousand-year history. Representatives from every major civilization had gathered within hours of receiving the first reports from the Sol system. The Great Hall buzzed with shocked conversations as species that had never agreed on anything found themselves united in their disbelief. Admiral Tejo walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime Station with a confidence that had not been there before. Gone was the quiet, patient demeanor he had maintained for years. His uniform now displayed insignia that most aliens had never seen before. The symbols of Earth's true military rank structure. Behind him walked Colonel Sung-ho, wearing the formal dress uniform of Earth's newly revealed defense forces. The ship that had brought them to the emergency session was no longer disguised as a simple diplomatic vessel. The New Horizon had transformed during its journey, revealing itself to be one of the most advanced warships in the galaxy. The crystalline hegemony's ambassador approached Tejo as he entered the main hall. Her diamond-like form sparkled with nervous energy as she spoke. "Admiral Tejo, is it true? The reports from Sol System? They claim your people disabled an entire invasion fleet without destroying a single ship. How is this possible?" Tejo smiled politely. "Ambassador Crystal Song, Earth's defensive capabilities have never been a secret. We simply chose not to advertise them until circumstances forced our hand. But our intelligence services have been monitoring human activities for decades. We saw no evidence of major military installations." "That is because you were looking for military installations that resembled your own?" Tejo replied. "Earth takes a different approach to defense. We prefer our military assets to appear as civilian infrastructure until needed." The session began with Supreme Counselor Zenthak calling for order. The ancient being's voice carried across the hall as thousands of delegates took their seats. The usual seating arrangement had been modified, the human delegation now occupied a position of prominence near the center of the hall. "We are here to address the unprecedented events in the Sol System," Zenthak announced. 3 of our most powerful member civilizations launched what they called a training exercise against the human homeworld. The results have shaken the foundation of everything we believed about galactic military balance. A holographic display appeared above the center of the hall, showing recordings from the battle. The Alien Alliance fleet of 10,000 ships had been the largest military force assembled in centuries. The footage showed this mighty armada being systematically neutralized by human forces that seemed to appear from nowhere. Colonel Sung-ho rose from his seat when called upon to address the council. His voice was calm and professional as he began to speak. "Honored delegates, Earth wishes to clarify several misconceptions that have led to this unfortunate situation. For 50 years, we have maintained peaceful relations with all galactic civilizations while quietly observing their military capabilities and political intentions." Murmurs rippled through the hall. The implications of his words were becoming clear. "Every human trading mission was also a reconnaissance operation," Sung-ho continued. "Every diplomatic exchange included intelligence gathering. Every civilian colony established monitoring stations that tracked alien military movements throughout their local regions." Supreme Commander Krextal, who had managed to escape the Sol System with less than half his fleet intact, stood up angrily. "You deceived us. You presented yourselves as weak and peaceful while secretly building weapons." "We presented ourselves exactly as we are," Sung replied calmly. "Peaceful people who prefer diplomatic solutions to conflicts. However, we are not defenseless people. There is a significant difference between choosing not to fight and being unable to fight." Dr. Hyun, Earth's chief xenotechnology researcher, activated a new holographic display. It showed the technological progression of human capabilities. Over the past 50 years, the data was startling. Earth achieved faster-than-light travel 20 years before making first contact with galactic civilization, she explained. "We developed energy weapons, defensive shields, and artificial intelligence systems that matched or exceeded galactic standards before we ever left our solar system." The hall fell silent as delegates processed this information. Everything they thought they knew about human technological development had been wrong. Why did you hide these capabilities? Asked the Apex Syndicate's representative, his shadow-like form flickering with confusion. Because we wanted to understand galactic civilization before revealing our true strength, Dr. Hayun replied. We observed how technologically advanced species treated less developed ones. We saw how military strength was used to dominate weaker civilizations. We decided to appear weak while we learned whether the galaxy was a place where peaceful coexistence was possible. Captain Wu Jin stepped forward to address the council. As the commander of colonial defense operations, he had information that would shock the delegates even further. Every human colony established in the past 50 years was designed as both a civilian settlement and a military installation, he announced. Our farming colonies include underground manufacturing facilities that produce military equipment. Our research stations are actually monitoring posts that track alien activities across dozens of star systems. He activated another display showing the true extent of human colonization. What appeared to be scattered civilian settlements revealed themselves to be a coordinated network of military installations spanning hundreds of light years. The colony that War Commander Gorthan attacked at New Seoul was one of our most heavily defended positions. Wu Jin continued. It appeared to be a simple farming world, but it actually housed enough defensive systems to disable an entire battle fleet. The Vorthak delegation looked stunned. They had chosen New Seoul specifically because it appeared to be the most vulnerable human settlement. Learning that they had actually attacked one of humanity's strongest fortresses explained their humiliating defeat. Admiral Taeho rose to deliver the most important part of Earth's revelation. For 50 years, the galaxy has wondered why humans seemed so reluctant to use military force. You assumed it was because we were weak or cowardly. The truth is much simpler. We were studying you. The hall erupted in angry voices from dozens of species. The idea that humans had been secretly analyzing their military capabilities while pretending to be helpless was deeply disturbing to civilizations that prided themselves on their intelligence services. Taeho waited for the noise to die down before continuing. We learned which species could be trusted as genuine allies and which ones viewed us as potential prey. We identified civilizations that respected peaceful neighbors and those that only understood strength. Most importantly, we discovered that the galaxy's political structure rewards military aggression and punishes diplomatic restraint. He paused and looked directly at the Vorthak delegation. The alliance that attacked Sol System proved our analysis was correct. You united three powerful civilizations to conquer what you believed was a defenseless species. You planned to enslave our people and divide our territory among yourselves. This confirmed that the galaxy was not yet ready for truly peaceful coexistence. The recordings from the Sol System battle continued playing on the central display. They showed human weapons platforms emerging from hiding places throughout the asteroid belt, revealing the massive scale of Earth's defensive preparations. How many ships do you really have? Asked the representative from the Mentari Collective, his insectoid form clicking nervously. Enough, Taeho replied simply. Earth's military doctrine focuses on defense rather than conquest. We have sufficient forces to protect our colonies and allies, but we have no interest in building an empire. Dr. Hayun provided more specific information. Our current fleet includes approximately 3,000 vessels capable of interstellar travel. However, most of these ships have been disguised as civilian craft for decades. The cargo haulers and research vessels you have been seeing in your spaceports are actually military transports and reconnaissance ships. This revelation sent another wave of shock through the Council. Every major civilization suddenly realized that human ships had been operating in their territory for years while gathering intelligence. The Zephyrian Confederation's ambassador stood up, her scaled form trembling with anger. You have been spying on us for decades while pretending to be our friends. We have been learning about you while hoping to become your friends, Colonel Sung-ho corrected. There is a difference between gathering intelligence for conquest and gathering intelligence for survival. Earth has never used the information we collected to attack or harm any galactic civilization. Supreme Counselor Zenthak called for order as the debates grew more heated. The ancient being's voice carried a note of concern as he addressed the assembly. The events of recent days have fundamentally changed the balance of power in our galaxy. Earth has revealed itself to possess military capabilities that rival or exceed any single member civilization. How do we proceed from this point? Admiral Tejo stood to answer. Earth proposes a new approach to galactic relations based on honest communication rather than deception. We will no longer hide our military capabilities, but we also commit to using them only for defensive purposes and peacekeeping operations. The proposal was simple but revolutionary. For the first time in galactic history, a major military power was voluntarily limiting its own expansion while offering to help maintain peace between other civilizations. The session continued for hours as delegates struggled to understand the new reality. The species that had seemed weakest had proven to be among the strongest, and they were offering partnership rather than demanding submission. 6 months had passed since the failed attack on Sol System, and the galaxy looked very different than it had before. The Great Council Chamber of Nexus Prime had been rebuilt to accommodate new seating arrangements that reflected the changed balance of power. Where once the Vorthak Empire, Apex Syndicate, and Zephyrian Confederation had occupied positions of dominance, now a new section had been created for the Sol Defense Coalition. Admiral Tejo, now officially recognized as Supreme Fleet Commander of Earth's hidden navy, stood before the assembled representatives of 300 galactic civilizations. His uniform bore the full insignia of his actual rank, no longer hidden behind the modest diplomatic attire he had worn for so many years. 6 months ago, this council witnessed the revelation that humanity had been preparing for galactic warfare while maintaining an appearance of peaceful weakness. He began, his voice carrying easily through the vast chamber. Today I want to discuss what we have learned from each other during this period of adjustment. The changes have been dramatic and swift. The Vorthak Empire had undergone a complete restructuring of its military. Leadership after the humiliation at Sol, War Commander Gorthan had been replaced by a more diplomatic figure who understood that brute force was no longer an effective strategy in a galaxy where humans could neutralize entire fleets without destroying them. The Empire's new approach focused on trade agreements and mutual defense pacts rather than territorial expansion. The Apex Syndicate had similarly reformed its aggressive policies. Admiral Vexthal had been reassigned to colonial administration, replaced by leaders who recognized that the galaxy's military balance had shifted permanently. Their shadow-like species had always prized intelligence gathering, and they had developed a grudging respect for humanity's superior information warfare capabilities. The Zephyrian Confederation had perhaps changed the most of all. Their warlike culture had been forced to adapt when they realized that their traditional tactics of intimidation and conquest were useless against an enemy that could disable their ships without firing a shot. They had begun focusing on defensive strategies and diplomatic solutions to territorial disputes. President Yunhee had established what she called the Honest Engagement Protocol 3 months earlier. Under this system, Earth would no longer disguise its military capabilities, but would also commit to using them only for defensive purposes and peacekeeping operations between other species. The first test of this new approach had come when the Crystalline Hegemony and the Mentari Collective had begun mobilizing for war over disputed mining rights in the Gamma Serpentis system. Traditional galactic diplomacy would have let the conflict escalate until one side conquered the other, but Earth had intervened with a different approach. Commander Sojin, now promoted to Admiral of the Galactic Peace Corps, had taken a small fleet to the disputed system. Instead of supporting either side, the human ships had established a neutral zone and invited both civilizations to negotiate under Earth's protection. The Gamma Serpentis mediation was successful because both sides understood that we had the military strength to enforce any agreement we helped create, Sojin explained to the Council. But more importantly, they also understood that we had no intention of claiming the disputed territory for ourselves. This was the key to Earth's new role in galactic politics. Unlike previous dominant powers that used their strength to build empires, humans offered their military capabilities as a service to maintain peace between other species. They had no interest in conquest or territorial expansion, which made them acceptable mediators to civilizations that would never trust each other. The Sol Defense Fleet had become the galaxy's de facto peacekeeping force, with human ships stationed in neutral zones throughout disputed regions. Their presence prevented conflicts from escalating while diplomatic solutions could be. DVLOPD Dr. Ha Yun had established the Xenotechnology Exchange Program, where Earth shared some of its advanced defensive technologies with other civilizations, in return for cultural and scientific knowledge. The program was carefully managed to prevent any single species from gaining too much military advantage, but it allowed the galaxy as a whole to benefit from human innovations. We are not trying to make everyone dependent on Earth's technology, Dr. Hayun told the Council. We are trying to raise the general level of defensive capability so that aggressive civilizations can no longer easily conquer peaceful ones. The program had already shown remarkable results. The gentle ones of Andros Prime, who had been under protectorate status for centuries due to their inability to defend themselves, had been able to upgrade their defensive systems enough to regain full independence. Several other peaceful species had similarly benefited from access to human shield technology and non-lethal weapon systems. Captain Wu Jin reported on the transformation of human colonies throughout the galaxy. We are converting our hidden military installations into open defensive facilities, he announced. Colonies that were secretly fortified are now openly acknowledged as military bases, but they are being redesigned to serve as training centers for allied species rather than weapons pointed at potential enemies. This transparency had initially worried some civilizations, but they had quickly realized that open human military bases were actually less threatening than hidden ones. At least now they knew where Earth's forces were located and what they were doing. The most significant change had been in how young humans were being educated about their place in the galaxy. Cadet Minho sat in a classroom aboard the training ship New Earth, listening as Captain Sujin explained the history of Earth's 50-year deception. Why did we choose such a complicated strategy? Minho asked. Why not just reveal our strength from the beginning? Captain Sujin smiled at the question she had heard dozens of times from new cadets. Because strength without wisdom leads to the same mistakes that the Vorthek Empire made. They were strong, but they used their strength to create enemies instead of allies. We wanted to understand the galaxy before we revealed our capabilities. She activated a holographic display showing the current state of galactic politics. Look at what we accomplished through patience. The three most aggressive civilizations in the galaxy have reformed their military policies. Dozens of peaceful species now have better defenses. The number of active interspecies conflicts has dropped to the lowest level in recorded history. Minho studied the display with interest. So our weakness was actually a strategy? Our apparent weakness was strategic patience, Sujin corrected. We were never actually weak. We were calculating, preparing, and waiting for the right moment to reveal ourselves. Sometimes the greatest strength is making others underestimate you until you choose to be understood. The lesson continued as Sujin explained how Earth's military doctrine had evolved from pure defense to active peacekeeping. Our job is not to conquer other species or build an empire. Our job is to make sure that peaceful civilizations can exist without fear of aggressive neighbors. Back in the council chamber, Admiral Tejo was concluding his address to the assembled delegates. Earth's silent warning was always there, he said, looking directly at the reformed representatives of the former alliance. It was in our restraint. When provoked, our measured responses to aggression and our patient observation of galactic politics. The strongest civilizations mistook this patience for weakness. He paused and looked around the great hall at hundreds of species that were still adjusting to the new reality. You have now learned the true meaning of human determination. We spent 50 years preparing for the possibility that diplomacy would fail. We hoped it would not be necessary to reveal our strength, but we were ready when that hope proved false. Supreme Counselor Zenthak rose from his ancient seat to address the assembly. The events of the past 6 months have taught us all valuable lessons about the difference between strength and wisdom, between power and patience. Earth has shown us that true strength sometimes lies in choosing not to use all the force available. To you, the old being's voice carried the weight of centuries as he continued. I have seen many dominant civilizations rise and fall during my long life. Most used their power to conquer and control others, which eventually led to their destruction. Earth offers us something different, a dominant power that uses its strength to protect rather than to conquer. As the session concluded, delegates from across the galaxy began filing out of the chamber. Many stopped to speak with the human representatives, offering thanks for Earth's peacekeeping efforts or requesting assistance with their own regional conflicts. The crystalline hegemony's ambassador approached Admiral Tejo as he prepared to leave. Admiral, my people want to thank Earth for mediating our dispute with the Montari. Without your intervention, we would have fought a costly war that would have benefited no one. That is exactly why we revealed ourselves, Tejo replied. The galaxy deserves better than endless cycles of conquest and revenge. We hope our example will inspire other strong civilizations to use their power more wisely. As the human delegation departed Nexus Prime aboard the New Horizon, now openly displaying its advanced weaponry and defensive systems, Captain Sujin reflected on how much had changed. 6 months ago, humans had been dismissed as weak and irrelevant. Now they were recognized as the galaxy's most important peacekeeping force. The galaxy had learned that Earth's silent warning had been there all along, hidden in plain sight. Humanity's patience had not been weakness, it had been the ultimate strategic advantage, allowing them to study their potential enemies while preparing defenses that those enemies could never have imagined. The strongest civilizations had finally understood that they had mistaken patience for weakness, and that mistake had changed the balance of galactic power forever. Earth's quiet strength had become the foundation of a new era of peace, built not on conquest but on the wisdom to know when not to fight and the strength to enforce that wisdom when necessary.